Bonjour à tous. Hello everyone. We are going to start in a few minutes. As you can see on the screen, we have simultaneous interpretation in French, English, and Spanish. Please follow the instructions to select your preferred languages. Eh bien, bonjour à toutes et à tous, et bienvenue à ce 18e Forum international
Good
des
morning,
ONG
afternoon,
en
evening,
partenariat
everyone, and
officiel
welcome to
avec
the
l'UNESCO.
18th International NGO Forum
Ce
in official
forum est
partnership
dédié au
with
partenariat
UNESCO.
pour une éducation
This forum
verte,
is
les
dedicated to
ONG
partnership
mobilisées
for
pour un
green
impact
education,
durable.
NGOs
Je suis Cyril
engaged for
Noiretin, je suis
sustainable
membre du
impact.
bureau du comité
My
de
name is
liaison
Cyril
ONG
Noiretin,
UNESCO
member of the
et
Bureau
représentant
of the
permanent du
NGO-UNESCO
Rotary
Liaison
auprès de l'UNESCO.
Committee and permanent
J'ai le plaisir
representative
et
of
l'honneur d'être
Rotary
coprésident de ce
International to
forum
UNESCO.
aux côtés de
I have the
Nisrine
pleasure and honor of being the
Abdel-Jalil,
co-chair
directrice
of this
générale de la
forum
Fondation
alongside
marocaine
Nisrin
pour
Ibn
l'enfance préscolaire.
Abdeljaid,
Ce
Director
forum
General
est
of the
organisé par le
Moroccan
comité de
Foundation
liaison
for
ONG-UNESCO
Preschool
en
Children.
coopération avec le
This forum is
secrétariat de
organized
l'UNESCO
by the
et plus
NGO-UNESCO
particulièrement
Liaison
le secteur de
Committee in
l'éducation
cooperation
et sa
with the
section
UNESCO
en charge de
Secretariat,
l'éducation au développement
particularly
durable
the
et
education
avec le
sector,
soutien de
and its
l'unité
section
chargée
in
des
charge of
partenariats
education
avec
for
la
sustainable
société civile.
development, and with the support of the
Près de
Civil
600
Society
participants se sont
Partnerships
inscrits pour ce
Unit.
forum en
Nearly
ligne qui va
600
se dérouler sur 2
participants
jours,
have registered
aujourd'hui et
for this
demain.
online forum, which will
Nous
take
avons
place
conçu
over
cet
2
événement
days,
comme un
today
espace
and
privilégié
tomorrow.
pour dialoguer
We
sur
have
les meilleures
designed this
pratiques
event as
et
a
le rôle
privileged
stratégique
space
des
for
ONG
dialogue
dans
on
les
best
4
practices
piliers
and
qui
the
structurent le
strategic role
partenariat
of
pour l'éducation
NGOs
verte.
in the 4 pillars
Des écoles
that structure
vertes
the
ou des
Partnership for
établissements
Green
résilients.
Education, green
Rendre vert
schools
chaque
for
programme
resilient
scolaire pour intégrer le
institutions,
climat dans
greening
l'enseignement.
every curriculum
Adapter la
to
formation
integrate
des
climate
enseignants
into
et les
education,
capacités des systèmes
adapting
éducatifs
teacher
pour former
training
les
and
éducateurs
education
et des
system
communautés
capacities
vertes
to
pour
train
développer
educators
l'apprentissage tout au long de la
and
vie
green
et
communities
augmenter la
to
résilience
develop
climatique
lifelong
au niveau
learning
local.
and increase climate
Face
resilience
aux
at the local level.
défis climatiques,
Faced
nous,
with
les
climate
ONG,
challenges,
innovons,
as
incluons les
NGOs,
jeunes et les
we
femmes,
try to
piliers de
innovate,
l'éducation,
include young
et nous
people
lions
and women,
éducation
the
verte à
pillars
l'action
of
concrète.
education, and
Je remercie
link
par
green
avance tous les
education
intervenants pour
to
leurs
concrete
engagements
action.
et je tiens à
I'd like
saluer
to
particulièrement
thank all
Madame
the
Stéphanie
speakers
Giannini,
in
sous-directrice générale
advance
pour
for their
l'éducation d'UNESCO,
commitment,
qui
and I
nous
would
fait
like to give a
l'honneur de sa
special welcome
présence.
to Ms. Stefania
Ma collègue
Giannini,
Nisrine va maintenant vous
UNESCO
présenter le
Assistant
programme
Director
détaillé de
General
ces
for
2 jours riches
Education,
en
who honors
échanges.
us with her
Nisrine,
presence.
je te
My
cède la
colleague
parole.
Nisreen will now present the detailed program for these 2 days of our exchanges.
Merci
Nisreen,
Cyril.
over to you.
Bonjour à toutes et à
Thank
tous.
you. Thank you,
Bienvenue
Cyril.
et
Hello,
merci de participer
everybody.
à ce webinaire
Welcome, and
que
many
j'ai
thanks
le
for
plaisir
joining
de
us.
co-présider
It's my
avec
pleasure to
Cyril.
co-chair it
Tout d'abord, je
with
rappelle que ce
Cyril.
18e Forum
First, let me
international
remind
des
you that
ONG
this
en
18th
partenariat officiel
forum
avec l'UNESCO
of
sous le thème
NGOs in
Partenariat
official
pour une
partnership with
éducation
UNESCO,
verte, les
entitled
ONG
Greening
mobilisées pour
Education
un impact
Partnership,
durable,
NGOs
est
Engaged for
organisé cette
Sustainable
fois sous le
Impact,
forme d'un
has been
webinaire,
organized
s'inscrit
as
dans
an
le
online
prolongement
forum,
des recommandations
follows
de la
in
dernière
the
conférence
continuity
internationale des
of
ONG.
the
Il
findings
vise,
of the
comme l'a
latest
si bien
International
mentionné
Conference of
Cyril, à soutenir
NGOs.
les
And as
objectifs du
Cyril
partenariat pour une
mentioned,
éducation verte
the
en
point
renforçant
is
les
to
connaissances et les compétences des apprenants
meet our
pour des sociétés
objectives
plus
by
vertes, plus
strengthening
résilientes et
the
plus justes.
societies,
Ainsi,
the
l'objectif de ce webinaire est
knowledge
triple:
of
présenter les objectifs
educators
globaux du
as well
partenariat pour une
as
éducation verte,
learners. We
mettre en
want to
lumière ces
share
différents
global
piliers
objectives.
et
We want
valoriser les
to
projets et initiatives concrètes
shed some
portés
light on the
par des
different
ONG,
pillars, and
comme
we
son
want
titre
also to
l'indique.
shed some light
Il
on
s'agit
all the
également
hands-on
d'élargir la
initiatives by
mobilisation
NGOs. We
autour
want
de
to
cette
also widen
initiative
the
mondiale
mobilization around
d'envergure
this
en
world
sensibilisant
initiative
un nombre
by
croissant
raising
d'acteurs.
awareness a growing
Dans
number
cette
of
perspective,
stakeholders.
et afin de toucher
And with this
un
in mind, and
public
so
large,
as to address as
notamment les
wide
ONG en
an audience as
partenariat officiel avec
possible,
l'UNESCO, mais
notably
aussi
NGOs
d'autres
in
ONG,
partnership with UNESCO,
acteurs
but
et
other
parties prenantes,
NGOs, other
nous avons
stakeholders,
choisi
other players.
d'aborder
That is
l'ensemble des
why
4
we've
piliers
decided
pendant
to
ce
look at all
webinaire
4
en
pillars
combinant les
during
4
this
piliers du
webinar
partenariat, bien sûr, en combinant des apports
by
d'experts et des exemples
combining
de terrain.
insights from experts as well as
Sur le plan
field
organisationnel, très
feedback.
rapidement, comme So,
a quick word about our organization. So, this will unfold over a couple of days. These will be 2 3-hour-long webinars, and we'll start with an opening introduction by Stefania Giannini, Assistant Director General for Education, UNESCO. She will remind us of the importance of this partnership. Many thanks, Ms. Giannini, for accepting to take part in this webinar. Then we'll be listening to Svetlana Stroyanova, chairperson of the NGO-UNESCO Liaison Committee, and then we'll listen to representatives from TASK, the Assessment of Sustainable Knowledge, and Ms. Katarina Ananiadou for a general presentation of the Green Education Partnership. So today, we will look at Pillar 1, greening schools, and Pillar 4, about greening communications. Tomorrow, we'll cover Pillar 2, greening every curriculum, and Pillar 3, greening teachers' training and education systems. And we'll wrap up with a closing session. So, a little bit of housekeeping. There'll be a plenary for the opening session and the closing session. There will be time dedicated to a Q&A. You can use the platform to that end. The webinar, as Cyril mentioned, will be both in French and English, but also in Spanish. Thank you very much for your attention. And I will give the floor back to Cyril to introduce the first speaker. Thank you very much, Nisrine, for telling us about this REACH program. And without further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Stefania Giannini, Assistant Director General for Education, to take the floor. She's a former Minister of Education and Research in Italy. She's held the position of Assistant Director General since 2018. She's a leading figure in global education, and she brings strategic vision and leadership to the coordination and monitoring of the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Education to ensure that education remains a top priority on the global political agenda. Ms. Giannini, you have the floor. Thank you very much. Hello. Hello, everybody. I would like first to say how happy we are here at the UNESCO to welcome you virtually in this forum for dialogue and for shared commitment between UNESCO and civil society. Through all the different representatives taking part in this 18th forum on a topic that is very topical indeed, how important education is to put together an efficient response to all climate-related issues, but of course, as we will say again and again, we want to go beyond that dimension. And first, I would like to thank our 2 co-chairs most warmly. They've already spoken, and they've already well described the format and the objectives that we share. As you know, UNESCO, and that won't come as a surprise to you, really works hand in hand with civil society. UNESCO is a unique organization with networks, incredible networks of expertise in civil society, a pool of knowledge. I'm thinking of academia, but also all schools associated. And as we can see today, with all those participants that have come in such large numbers, and I want to thank them for it, and all representatives of civil society, that includes Rotary International, I'm a member myself, and I'm very happy to see all of us, all of you walk in the same direction.
We are going to address today, and we are supposed in this couple of days to bring your different perspectives and contributions. let me bring you to the global perspective that UNESCO is responsible for. As you all know, we are meeting at a very defining moment. The climate crisis is reshaping lives and livelihoods across the globe. No country, no region in the world is, let's say, untouched by this important issue. But as we all know, it's not only an environmental challenge. It's very much a human one. It's very much a topic, a crisis affecting equality, affecting social cohesion, and most importantly, intergenerational justice. That's why young people are so keen to take care of their planet, and they are so keen to be part actively of this movement that we built a few years ago. Well, we do think at UNESCO, we do believe that education has a vital role to play in this transformation. It's a powerful lever for climate action. It's the only real powerful tool to transmit, let's say, what we call a chain of values from necessarily knowledge, better knowledge of what the climate change is about, and which is the impact on our lives, whatever the dimension we are considering, and from knowledge awareness, how we can better mobilize all different constituencies to take care of this planet, the only one we have, by the way, as well. And finally, changing behaviors, because as we all know, governments, political leaders are mainly responsible for big decisions about energy, about, let's say, different forms of industrializations, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, all of us as individuals must contribute in our daily life with small things, with small steps to make the future more sustainable, just and peaceful. So education actually empowers all people, young people as well as older citizens, to make informed choices and to support communities in shaping their own sustainable futures. And this is precisely the vision behind the initiative we called, I think inspired a little bit by the discussion taking place since a few years in education community internationally, Green in Education Partnership, an initiative launched almost 4 years ago now in 2022. It was in the context of the UN Transforming Education Summit, a very big, powerful initiative under the leadership of the Secretary General himself, and coordinated by UNESCO. And this was very much, let's say, zooming on the issue of climate change and climate action through education within the broader picture and the perspective of education for sustainable development, which is a framework pioneer and brought up to the international consideration and attention many years ago by UNESCO at the very beginning of this century. Now, the partnership itself, as the two co-chairs just mentioned, aims to align education systems with the objectives of the 2030 Agenda and the Paris Agreement through 4 simple, clear-cut, interconnected pillars that somehow, let's say, define the boundaries of what education is about. Schools, curriculum, teachers, and communities. And we know it's an ambitious project, but the holistic approach that we are taking at UNESCO when it comes to sustainable development is very much grounded on this holistic approach, which has the ambition to bring into education, all the different perspectives when it comes to how schools are organized and how schools are managed, moving to the more, let's say, tangible reforms and development of green curricula, and then of course the important let's say crucial steps of preparing and equipping teachers with their own knowledge on what climate change is about and how they can better and more effectively address climate change in the classroom. And finally, last but really not least, I'm talking to civil society active representatives and main actors in this process, what communities can benefit from and can bring to the cause. So NGOs, as it's almost obvious, play a central role in this effort. They expand access to education. They can help to address inequalities, foster innovation as well, and most importantly, bridging the gap between the policy and practice, that it's always where execution comes and where sometimes they will, so to say, is still around. So now, this initiative has already accomplished a lot since its establishment. I can tell you that almost 100 countries, 97 to be precise, and more than 900 stakeholders are part of it, including diverse and highly engaged community NGOs. And this reflects our firm belief at UNESCO that achieving sustainable impact requires collective efforts, collective action across the sectors, across boundaries and regions. And over the next 2 days, I suppose, as the co-chairs invited you all at this forum, we all have my colleagues who will stay with you, the opportunity to deepen share understanding of the Green in Education Partnership, to learn from concrete best practices that we already identified around the world, around all 4 pillars, and most importantly to strengthen even further and more collaboration among all the partners involved. Once again, this forum has been designed, conceived as a real space for dialogue, as an open space for dialogue, and we do think that it's an important further step to make this green in education the reality for all countries in the world, all children and youth, and really through a different sense of belonging to their community, a different and better awareness of what as individuals we can contribute to the cause, I think will in any case make the difference together. So I thank you so much, and I wish you a very fruitful and pleasant discussion in the coming today and tomorrow. Thank you so much. Over to you back, Mr. Chair.
Merci, Madame la sous-directrice.
Thank you very much, Ms. Assistant Director General, and thank you so much for everything you're doing in favor of greening education. I'm now going to give the floor to Ms. Svetlomira Stoyanova, Chairperson of the NGO-UNESCO Liaison Committee. Svetlomira is a professional in cultural management. She's based in Bulgaria with a university background in economics and theater. She's currently a member of the UMIMA International. Over to you, Svetlomira.
Thank you very much, Cyril. Good day to everyone. Buenos dias, bonjour à tous. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues, dear friends, it is a great pleasure and an honor to welcome you to the 18th International Forum of NGOs, co-organized with UNESCO under the inspiring title Greening Education Partnership, NGOs Engaged for Sustainable Impact. As president of the NGO-UNESCO Liaison Committee, I'm deeply proud to open this forum at a moment when the word engaged carries particular meaning. To be engaged is not simply to participate. It means to be motivated, to be inspired, and to choose to be actively involved. Engagement begins with curiosity, grows through commitment, and ultimately becomes responsibility. And once we are truly engaged, we do not keep knowledge to ourselves. We share it, we spread it, and multiply its impact. The theme of partnership is at the heart of our discussions today. It is a word we use often and rightly so. Partnership speaks of collaboration, trust, and mutual understanding. But allow me to share a more personal reflection. Every time I hear the word partnership, my mind pauses on the simple element part. Because to be in a real partnership, one must be part of something, part of an idea, part of a vision, part of a concept. And most importantly, as ADG Janini just mentioned, part of a shared value system. Without values, partnership remains a formality. With values, it becomes a force for transformation. This forum builds on the momentum created by a series of inspiring satellite events organized by members of our committee, including initiatives led by SDSN, the Sustainable Development Solution Network, WASME, the World Association for Small and Medium Enterprises, SELECT, the International Association of Film and Television Schools, FMPS, the Moroccan Foundation for Preschool Education, and IAESTE, the International Association for the Exchange of Students for Technical Experience. These initiatives have demonstrated the creativity, commitment, and diversity of our NGO community, and they have laid strong foundations for the discussions we begin today and will continue tomorrow. As we move forward, I want to express how truly inspired I am to work alongside my colleagues from the NGO-UNESCO Liaison Committee, from those who carry the vision for this forum, to our co-chairs today, Cyril and Nisreen, to the entire steering committee whose dedication made this forum possible. My sincere gratitude also goes to our colleagues from UNESCO Secretariat, Education Sector, Section of Education for Sustainable Development, and the Unit for Civil Society Partnership for their continued support and trust. Last but not least, I would like to take a moment and extend my sincere thank you to the Youth Working Group of the Liaison Committee, whose active engagement through the preparation process has been invaluable and whose official statement will be presented at the end of the second day of the forum. For my final remarks, allow me to switch in Spanish. Estoy especialmente ansiosa por escuchar a nuestros maravillosos ponentes principales en las próximas sesiones. Y doy una calurosa
I
bienvenida
can't
a
wait
todos los
to hear our
participantes
main
que se unen a
speakers.
nosotros en línea desde todo el mundo.
Would like to
Más de
extend a
500
warm
personas
welcome to all
registradas.
our participants
Su
who
presencia
join
es
us
una
from all over
poderosa
the world.
muestra de
More than
compromiso.
500 participants
Gracias por dedicar su
have
tiempo no
actually
solo a asistir, sino
enrolled.
también a
That's proof to our
participar y
commitment. Thank you
espero a
so
colaborar
much for
con
your
nosotros
participation,
en
for your
futuros proyectos
contributions,
como
and I
parte
hope
activa
we
de un
get a chance
compromiso
to
compartido
cooperate
para
as part
hacer
of this
que la
beautiful project
educación
and
sea
be
más
part and
verde
parcel of
y
that
así
commitment,
lograr un
so
impacto
as to
sostenible.
make education
Gracias.
greener
Merci beaucoup.
and have a
Thank
real
you.
impact on sustainability. Thank you
Over
very
to you,
much.
Cyril.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for your nice and inspirational words. And now, je voudrais laisser maintenant la parole
I
à
would now
Aurélien
like to
Descamps,
give the floor to
cofondateur de
Aurélien
l'ONG
Descamps. He's the
Sulitest, qui développe des
co-founder
outils en
of
ligne pour
Sulitest. It's a
renforcer et
startup
démocratiser
company.
l'éducation au
They
développement
develop
durable.
online
Titulaire d'un
tools
doctorat en économie, il
to
est professeur affilié à
help
Cambridge Business School et chercheur
strengthen
affilié à
and
l'Université de
popularize
Vancouver.
education for sustainable
Aurélien,
development. He holds
vous
a
avez la
PhD
parole.
in economics and he is a professor at Kedge Business School.
Thank
Over to
you
you.
very much, Cyril. Thank you to the Liaison Committee and to the UNESCO Secretariat. It is a pleasure and an honor to present the Sulitest movement launched by our UNESCO accredited NGO at this international forum. So let me share my screen. You should now be able to see my screen.
We are. You can go ahead.
Thank you very much. So the Sulitest movement, sorry, the Sulitest movement is an international movement leveraging multi-stakeholder partnership to mainstream sustainability literacy. We develop two main activities. Firstly, we are advocating for the transformation of higher education towards sustainability for more than 12 years, specifically through HESI, the UN Higher Education Sustainability Initiative, that we are co-chairing with UNESCO, UNU, and UNDESA. Secondly, and more specifically with Sulitest, we are enabling higher education institutions to measure and improve sustainability literacy with tools and data to support the deep integration of sustainability in their learning pathways. We have an awareness test launched in 2016 and taken by more than 300,000 people in more than 800 institutions. And TASK, the assessment of sustainability knowledge, our flagship tool today, a psychometric test launched in 2023 and taken by more than 80,000 people in more than 90 institutions. So let me talk a bit more about TASK. TASK is supported by a documented domain of knowledge designed to set a common language for sustainability. This domain of knowledge is fostering a systemic perspective of sustainability, embracing the Sustainable Development Goals, the Global Sustainable Development Report from the Science Policy Interface, planetary boundaries, and the donut from Kate Raworth. It covers three main frameworks, divided into 28 subjects to ensure that everyone understands Earth systems, social foundations of human welfare, levers of action, and that everything is connected. 4 types of knowledge are assessed with TASK on these 28 subjects: fundamental concepts, orders of magnitudes, major causes, and systemic impacts. TASK allows institutions to be data-driven when piloting their strategy for sustainability, to measure the outcome and the impacts of sustainability learning with reliable and meaningful data. For example, TASK deliver benchmarks, top subjects, and subjects to improve, including an AI-powered study guide. TASK also delivers SDG indicators and detailed views per subjects covered. We are also creating a unique database to monitor progress of education for sustainability at the global level with 80,000 test takers in 30 countries. Each year, we are publishing these trends in a report for the UN High-Level Political Forum, highlighting the main trends of sustainability education. For example, we deliver annually the progress in SDG knowledge, but also the distribution per major in higher education and the importance of education for sustainability. Interestingly, we are also highlighting the continuum of learning from the bachelor level to master level. I will not enter into details, but you can consult our main trends in our report for the HLPF. So please get in touch with us if you want to learn more and join our movement to mainstream sustainability literacy. Thank you, and hand it over to you, Cyril.
Merci. Dans notre objectif de rendre le monde plus vert, il est essentiel de pouvoir s'appuyer sur des données concrètes et c'est pourquoi nous avions choisi de vous présenter un exemple.
We need concrete data, obviously, for greener schools, and that's why we wanted this concrete presentation to be made by Aurélien. Now, without further ado, we shall go into the heart of the matter. We're going to have a more general presentation. To do so, I'm going to give the floor to Katerina Ananiadou. She's a program specialist at UNESCO, coordinator of the Partnership for Green Education. She's an expert in educational policies, skills development, and youth engagement. You have the floor. Thank you ever so much, Cyril. Thank you, Nesrine. Good afternoon, everybody.
I'm also going to be using some slides. So let me share my screen first. I hope you can see my screen now. Yes, good. Okay, so yes, hello everybody. I'm Katerina Ananiadou. I'm based at the UNESCO Secretariat in the education sector, and particularly in the section for education for sustainable development. So I'm particularly pleased to be here today with you and to engage in the discussion with all of you over the next 2 days. And obviously representing the section of Education for Sustainable Development and the Greening Education Partnership. But we are particularly pleased with the choice of the topic of the discussion today. So you've already know and you've heard already Madame Giannini before me some general remarks about the partnership and how it came into being and its overall objective. So, and of course, we will go into much more detailed discussions, hopefully focusing on the different pillars, the thematic pillars of the partnership in the remainder of this forum. So my role here for the next few minutes is to just give an overview, to just provide the framework of, how the partnership came into being, its objectives, what it's trying to do, and what it has achieved so far, to frame our discussion for the rest of these 2 days. So I hope I hope you are seeing my screen now hope this is better. So the Greening Education Partnership, maybe first of all, I would like to say that it's based and it's grounded as an approach. It's very holistic, and we'll talk in a minute about this, but it's grounded within the Education for Sustainable Development approach that we have been promoting and advocating at UNESCO for many, many years, and which is very, takes this very holistic approach towards educating for achieving sustainability, for educating young people and older people to tackle all the global challenges, not just in the let's say most strict environmental aspects, but in a much more holistic approach, taking into account all the social, economic aspects of sustainability. So the Greening Education Partnership is a partnership that was founded, as you heard earlier, a few years ago at the wake of the Transforming Education Summit. It's a partnership that is focusing, its objective is to green education, to make every learner climate ready. And grounded very much being shaped by this holistic approach of ESD. We have 4 pillars, and you've heard about the pillars already, and we will be focusing our panel discussions on each of those 4 pillars. But just to remind you that we have the first pillar is on greening schools. And by schools here, maybe I should specify that it's a term that we use, but we are referring to not just schools, basic education, but including we take a lifelong learning approach starting from early childhood into higher education. So that would also include adult education, higher education, TVET, and so on. Our second pillar is on greening curricula. Once more, taking a very holistic, comprehensive approach to curricula and a lifelong learning approach, integrating climate education into curricula at all levels and for different age groups, and infusing curricula. I think that's what we are advocating for, but the infusion of all curricula, not just the syllabi for science and social sciences, but all curricula with the concepts related to greening and climate education. The third pillar is on greening teacher training and education systems capacities, and of course placing teachers at the heart of any effort. but also strengthening strengthening systems as a whole. And finally, the last pillar is on greening communities. And by communities here, we mean, I guess, any learning that's taking place outside of the more formal settings of schools and universities and formal training institutions. So taking an approach, a lifelong learning approach again, and looking at the non-formal and informal aspects of learning. A few words just to explain a little bit how the partnership works. Ms. Giannini earlier mentioned that indeed we have 97 member countries so far, and over 1,900 stakeholders that are members, and I am sure that many of our participants here today are also members of the partnership. The partnership, just to give you an idea about its governance, there is an advisory group with representatives from different organizations. We here, our team at the ESD section at the education sector, we provide the coordination and the secretariat support. And then under each of the 4 pillars, there are working groups that co-lead and guide the work that is taking place under each of the pillars. So those working groups are really the ones that are doing the work, and they are producing and they are working towards achieving the objectives of each of the pillars. So the working groups, again, they have a structure, and they are coordinated by different organizations, and you can see here the co-coordinators, the current co-coordinators, because these are roles that of course rotate over time. The current co-coordinators for the 4 working groups, and we will have representatives of many of these organizations with us today and tomorrow to participate in our discussions. And we are also listing here, maybe I should also have just said that the partnership is very inclusive in its approach. It's really a big platform community of practice. So the members range from NGOs, from multilateral UN agencies to civil society organizations, youth organizations. So it's we have a very, very diverse membership. Our partners come from very, very different contexts, both geographical and other types of representing different types of stakeholders. And so a few words on where we are with each of those of our work under each of those pillars. And again, we will go into the details in the panel sessions, of course. So for pillar 1 on greening schools, or maybe I should start by saying that all pillars have set or are planning to set targets that help us to focus our work and to also measure the impact and the progress that we're making. So for pillars 1 and 2, for schools and curricula, the targets have already been set. So you can see them there. By 2030 for pillar 1, we are aiming to have 50% of schools in each country greened, and I'll say in a minute what that means. Similarly, 90% of countries having green national curricula by 2030. For pillars 3 and 4, our targets are still under discussion, and the working groups are still working in order to define them. And then each of those pillars, as part of their efforts to also support member states and other organizations to achieve these targets, they are producing guidance tools, and we have some very key publications that have already come out. So for pillar 1, we have the Green School Quality Standard that came out a year and a half ago now, that is presenting the standards, presenting the different types of activities and the different dimensions that schools can undertake in order to be aligned with the standard, and also to be acknowledged and recognized as green schools. For Pillar 2, for the curricula, we have the Greening Curriculum Guidance, which again provides guidance, very holistic guidance at a very, it's not a curriculum in itself, it's a guiding tool that curriculum developers can use in order to green their national curricula or the local curricula. And similarly, under Pillar 4, we have the Greening Communities Guidance that came out a few months ago, and very soon we will have a flagship publication under Pillar 3 on greening teacher training. It's the title is Educators at the Heart of Greening Education, and it's about building resilience for educators and teachers. Just before the last few minutes to say that to just flag a couple of other activities that we are working on at the moment with our partners. So in order for to strengthen capacities in our member states and more broadly in amongst our stakeholders on particularly on those two documents that I mentioned, the Greening Curriculum Guidance and the Schools Quality Standard, we are currently developing a training course aimed at education policymakers, curriculum developers, designers of teacher training programs around these two guidance tools in order to be able to make it, to fill the gap between, let's say, the tool in itself, which is very comprehensive, but also quite, by definition, very global in its approach, so that it can be more accessible and more easily localized and adapted to their own contexts. So we are in the process of developing this material and aiming to launch at least the first version, the first cohort of trainees being trained later in 2026. Another very important strand of work at the moment, going back to this issue of measuring impact and, of course, accountability, we are developing a global monitoring platform that will enable us, we will be showcasing the data that we collect from our member states on numbers of green schools, on curricula that have been greened, but more broadly, more than that, including impact stories, including case studies, best practices from around the world. And all this information will be showcased in this, what we call a global monitoring platform, and which should be the first phase of which, I should say, should be live very, very soon. A final word, maybe on going back to the objectives of the partnership. I mean, I've already indicated some of the main elements of our work and the achievements of the Global Greening Education Partnership so far. And a very, of course, important element of an objective of the partnership is to advocate for the role of education to address the challenges of climate change. We do that through many different activities. We have a very active capacity development webinar series, for example. But we're also, and the partnership has been always very present since it came into existence at the climate conference of the parties, the climate COPs. So as an example here, we're at the last COP that took place in November in Brazil. We organized a high-level political roundtable dialogue on greening education, where the role of education in climate action was reaffirmed, and also highlighting the key role of the teachers and educators. We always hold the annual meetings of the partnership during the COP. So the third meeting took place at COP 30, and also looking ahead at COP 31, we will continue the same advocacy efforts towards on the role of education for climate action, and also I think it's something that has been mentioned already in this forum as well, the key role of young people and the active engagement and meaningful involvement of young people. A little bit more, and you have some QR codes here if you would wish to have more information on the partnership and on ESD, Education for Sustainable Development work from our section. So you have some QR codes that will take you to the relevant pages. And this is us. This is our web page and our contact details. So I'm really looking forward. Thank you very much for this opportunity to just give this very, very quick overview of the partnership. And I hope that we will have time to go into much more meaningful discussion and detailed discussion in the next few minutes. I will be, of course, present in the discussion, and many of our colleagues and many of our partners are going to be here. So thank you again, and thank you to our two co-chairs, and back over to you, Cyril.
Merci Caterina pour cette excellente présentation.
Thank you ever so much, Caterina, for this opening presentation, which again is going to help us segue very nicely in the first roundtable, or rather our first session. The name of this session is Greening Schools. For the opening remarks, we're going to listen to Siri Tivitz-Puterman. She is an international specialist in strategy. She works at the crossroads of technology, education, and green entrepreneurship. She works with networks in order to implement systemic actions for a greener education. She helps with cross-cutting organization to strengthen capacities. Siri, you have the floor.
Hello, thank you. Good afternoon. Could you please start the video as it is unable for me?
Oh.
So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Pillar 1 Greening Schools panel. My name is Siri Tivitz-Puterman, and I am the chair of the Business Professional Women International Standing Committee on Environment and Sustainable Development. And I am today's first pillar moderator. Lovely, we can see now me too. So, in the context of the UNESCO Greening Education Partnership, greening schools means much more than adding environmental topics to lessons or running isolated sustainability projects. It refers to a whole school approach where leadership, governance, curriculum, daily operations, and community engagement are aligned to support long-term systemic change. This is exactly why isolated green projects are not enough. While they can be inspiring, they often remain fragmented, time-limited, and dependent on individual champions. What we need instead of is systemic transformation that is embedded in how schools function, how decisions are made, and how learning communities operate. Today's panel is structured to reflect this journey from frameworks to practice. We will begin by looking at global frameworks and quality standards that help define what greening schools really means in practice. We will then move to why this transformation matters on the ground, particularly from a community and equity perspective. From there, we will explore research insights on behavioral and institutional change in schools. And finally, we will conclude with a concentrate school-level case study demonstrating how greening schools principles are implemented in everyday leadership and operations. And after that, we will address your questions. I am pleased to introduce our panelists who together bring policy, NGO, research, and school leadership perspectives. First, we will hear from Dr. Pramod Kumar Sharma, Senior Director of Education and Foundation for Environmental Education, who will share insights on whole school frameworks and quality standards and how schools and NGOs can move beyond isolated initiatives towards structured long-term impact. Next, Yeroser will bring an NGO perspective, focusing on why greening schools are urgently needed, particularly in relation to community realities, equity, and resilience. We will then turn to the research insights with Dr. Gabriella B. Edwards from the University of Göteborg, who will reflect on what research tells us about behavioral and institutional change in schools and the conditions needed for successful implementation. Finally, we will conclude with a practical case study from Liisa Puusepp, principal of Rakvere State Upper Secondary School from Estonia, who will share how greening schools principles are being translated into the day-to-day school leadership and practice. With that, let us begin our discussion by inviting Dr. Pramod Kumar Sharma, Senior Director of Education of Foundation for Environmental Education, to start our panel. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Siri, for the introduction and welcome. And good afternoon from Copenhagen to all the participants. And I'm really delighted to be here to share our perspective. And the way we see Greening Education Partnership is basically that it is an approach where we have put targets and actions before our stakeholders in terms of numbers or achievements as key performance indicators. And from a pillar one perspective, we are looking at from different isolated initiatives that happen in a school to a whole school approach. So I represent Foundation for Environmental Education. We are co-coordinator of Pillar 1. We were established in 1981 with over 100 member organization in 81 countries. We run two sets of program, one with young people, eco schools, which is called Eco Campus at the tertiary level, learning about ecosystem and forest, and the Young Reporters for Environment, and also to programs in the tourism sector, Green Key and Blue Flag. Eco School is one of the largest greening school program, which is providing accreditation in form of Green Flag, and with over 54,000 schools in over 100 countries. I will not get into the details of this because Katrina has already covered this aspect, but then from a green school quality standard and the pillar one perspective, the whole school approach is the ESD approach or Education for Sustainable Development approach, where actions are basically suggested in 4 areas, which together make the whole school approach or the different components that come together for a quality education for sustainable development program. The first is on greening, on school governance, in terms of how leadership is looking at embedding greening or sustainability perspectives in the way this institution operates. And it also means providing and empowering young people in that leadership. It's not about the principal or the management. It is about the learner also in terms of what role they have in this transformative process. It is looking at facilities and operation, both the education part, but also the facilities that are there, which could be in terms of greening, but also regular operation and maintenance of even water facilities, toilet facilities, and how those are used to shape behaviors, shape education as sites for learning sustainability perspectives and principles. Teaching and learning, that is what the institution is all about. And it connects well with the other pillar on capacity building educators or teachers, where we need to train them on the different pedagogies and along with the content on climate change, for example, the climate science, and using innovative approaches which are centered around learners and are promoting active learning, especially project-based learning. And of course, community engagement is important. School does not basically exist in isolation. They exist in a community, in a town, in a village. And if the practices in school are not mirrored by the community, then it creates basically a dissonance where those are not supported by parents, and the children are or the learners are confused in terms of something that was only to be practiced in a school, but then the world outside is different. So how do we can basically bridge this gap between a school practice and what we want in the community, and then make community also as an important stakeholder in this journey or the process. So when we look at these four pillars, there has been activity suggested. And when we are looking at certifying a school as or accrediting a school or any educational institution, as Katrina mentioned, right from pre-primary to higher education, with the status of a green school, the activities are divided into 4 areas, and some activities are suggested as mandatory, and then from the rest of the activities, any institution can choose 1/3 of those activities to apply and get the status of a green school. Again, I'm reminding that the target is that at least 50% of the schools or educational institutions in any country need to achieve this status by 2030. This is a very ambitious target. And as Stephanie was mentioning, that we also as NGOs have a key role in bridging the gap, providing the support to the government, and bring in the expertise that we have in supporting schools in this journey and handhold them. And so school governance is looking at the school vision basically in terms of supporting practices, daily practices, climate proof, basically proofing governance, and then creating a community. Teaching and learning is looking at training and capacity building educators and training them to make sure that ESD is embedded in teaching and learning and not is an add-on subject. That's the idea. It's not creating more work, but it is trying to streamline and making it meaningful. And then hands-on project and pedagogy and how leadership and capacity building can be done or need to be done so that they can engage with the community. Facilities and operations, I already spoke about is in terms of also the aspects related to resilience. Some of our regions in the world are facing the basic disruption caused by climate change, how we can support them, and also the heating or the temperature variance that are there, and how we can continue to provide basic education, and how this greening aspects in terms of facilitation operation can support that. And also looking at our consumption within the school in terms of procurement and ethical practices. And then community engagement is looking at working with on climate adaptation, resilience, and reducing our emissions, and taking those projects that are done in the school to the community and making them basically a lived experience of in which the students or learners live. The key principles are basically looking at holistic education, which is a major aspect of pillar, basically SDG 4 on quality education, prioritizing sustainability practice to take climate change out of all the changes, climate change, all the environmental issues, climate change is an existential crisis, and we need to tackle it for now and also for the future, and then promote a sense of responsibility in this process. The way it has to be done is that the accreditation schemes should emphasize that school-based action should not be aimed at aiming at getting the certificate, but is in terms of the process, the quality. In Eco School, you can see on the right side is the 7-step process that we use to guide the project-based learning, which basically supports the whole institution approach, action orientation, and led by students through a plan, do, check, and activate paradigm of bringing about this change. Certification or accreditation within the pillar 1, as highlighted in the Green School Quality Standard, is not seen as a end point of a journey, but it is basically a standard that has to be maintained. And then there has to be a sustained committed to quality. It's not basically a one-time or a lifetime achievement award. It's a continuous process that an education institution need to take. And also monitoring and evaluation. Ultimately, we are trying to bring about an impact. If we are doing a very good process, but it's not leading to any educational outcomes or environmental outcomes, we need to really reflect whether we are doing it in the right way. We need to make an impact on climate change, biodiversity loss, or pollution, which are the three important areas of action. And this session is about how these global frameworks are being adapted. So we at the Foundation for Environmental Education through the Eco School programs, and many of our partners have also done this, which are partners in the Greening Education Partnership, is translated them into handbooks that can be, which basically translate this policy document, which can be easily understood by a teacher and a principal of the school. And then tailored around a project-based learning approach, translating those big ideas and big vision into something which can be done at the school level. The other co-coordinator is Gatteres. With them, we have worked on a new handbook, which is looking at climate resilience and school safety. I think when we were looking at the Green School Quality Standard, we realized this aspect within the ESD doesn't have that kind of attention that it should have. And climate change is there, and adaptation and resilience is important. And many countries, especially Global South, this has become an important area and priority for intervention. These are the two examples of good practices that we have, one from Spain and another from Scotland. So the process the students from Spain took was they identified climate risk and what impact it is having in their community. Then they basically, this is another aspect of quality education, that we cannot expect a teacher or everybody in the school to be an expert. And then they created an opportunity for an external expert to come to their school and address and bring down the knowledge and the gap. And then created those communication material along with the spirit, and then took it to the community and to the city council and created that awareness on what action the community need to take. So something that started in school but went to the entire community. And then the other school in Scotland, which basically asked that what is the problem with our habits and waste, and then they organized themselves as an eco crew and then developed an action plan, implemented that with external partners, because ultimately it's not about collecting the waste, but also making that participate in the process where that waste is handled properly. And in this journey, basically work with stakeholders on these aspects. So we need to understand that when we are looking at green school, we are not looking at isolated projects that we have taken. Schools can take projects on various themes, and they are also suggested in Green School Quality Standard. But it is not about delivering activity. It is about delivering a system change, a cultural change in the school, and then through that in the community as such. And different platforms are there where the teachers can engage and understand and be basically a community of practice. A lot of resources are available. We'll be happy to connect with you. You can connect with us, and all resources that you see on the screen are available for free and to any school, any partner, and we'll be happy to help you in this journey to achieve 50% schools with the status of accreditation to be a green school. Thank you for listening, and looking forward to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Pramod, for you grounding us in the whole school perspective. Let us now explore why this matters on the ground and in communities. Jero Saar, the floor is yours. Jero, do you hear us?
Yes, merci beaucoup. Bonjour à tout le monde.
Hello, everybody.
Un plaisir pour moi aujourd'hui
It's a real pleasure for me
d'être parmi vous.
to be with you today. So I'm going to make my presentation briefly. I'm going to talk about green schools, and more specifically in Africa, and even more specifically zooming in on the Sahelian region. So I am Jero Saar. I'm an engineer in climate and environment. and I'm also an activist, but I will not start a protest today. Be reassured, today I will show you or try to show you how in Africa we've tried to make schools a new pillar for a green education. So let's come back to what we mean by green schools as it is defined by UNESCO. The message we're trying to get across has to be clear. So the idea is for it to be well defined. So there are 4 pillars that have been defined by UNESCO and that help us realize that schools, on top of the curricula, whether teaching about ecology, and it is about sustainable practices, but it's also about engaging the community, helping access to water, to energy, better waste management, recycling through a well-defined system. Bearing in mind the situation on the African continent, it's easy to realize that there are more than 242 million school children that are impacted and have been impacted in the world. That's 1 out of every 7 school children, according to UNICEF. And in sub-Saharan Africa, 107 million are already out of school. It's linked to climate change. It's linked to heat waves. It can be sometimes 40, 45 degrees in these countries. And sometimes schools also have to reschedule classes because of floods. So we estimate that up to 10% of the school year is actually lost because of heat waves and flooding in vulnerable countries. And the 13 most vulnerable countries to these heat waves and flooding can be found in sub-Saharan Africa. If we look at the Sahel and Senegal, we see that temperatures are rising. We have reached 40 degrees in some areas that can lead to loss of concentration, and sometimes children are sick because of the heat. Some schools are flooded and they sometimes have to close during the school year, waiting for water to have been evacuated. There's another crucial problem, which is that girls are more heavily impacted because they're the ones sent to get water, which is why they miss school a lot. They have to go in the morning, they have to go in the evening. It's very difficult for them to do their homework at school, and it is difficult to get access to water. So all of this means that a lot of children miss school. So I'm not going to give you a lecture on agriculture or hydrology, but there is an impact on crops for African countries, countries that are already very poor. There's a system of agriculture, of farming that is dependent on rainfall that is indispensable for irrigation and for crops. And school canteens depend on these crops, which means that there is no security of supply, and a lot of children have to go to school without having eaten anything. So why is it dangerous not to green our schools? Because if we choose to disregard greening our schools and greening education, that would lead to serious consequences in the long term that would perpetuate vulnerability and inequality. From a very early age, it is absolutely essential for all children to learn how to face climate change. There's an increase of school dropouts. 20 million African children are in danger. Rural populations that are poor and that are find themselves in difficult situations, and girls are more exposed to the fallout of climate change. Institutions remain quite passive. Schools are vulnerable. They try to still teach children, but we need reforms to make it possible for these children to develop new reflexes, new habits, and new resilience. There are no really sustainable solutions yet. So why is it absolutely essential to green our schools? Because schools are a way to multiply green impact. And we've experimented that. We've realized that through programs, through school curricula that made school children ambassadors, that really works because children share all these green practices with their children. When, for example, they're taught about waste collection, I don't have children yet, but I'm sure that what I've heard is true, and what I've seen, children who've learned about that at school, they come back home and they talk about nothing but what they've actually done with their schoolmates. But there is another priority, which is a community co-building. Outside of schools, it's very important to engage communities, to empower communities. Communities are really a good scale to really work on, and we're counting on you. Come and take part in our work on gardens, our work on reforestation, our work on resource stewardship and resource preservation. And another sign that schools are really a way to multiply green impact is that we realize that it really helps boost local resilience. The role of NGO may be the most important point in this presentation. How NGOs can really build bridges, can help capitalize on this progress, can channel all this energy by really being the go-between between schools and local communities. They play an absolutely crucial role. They create that link, that connection between schools and community. They ensure that it's locally relevant, and they mobilize support to green initiatives. They are an interface, and they're very helpful in terms of advocacy. They connect schools with communities and with decision makers. NGOs also help with the financing and the training. They help train schools and teachers and educators so as to teach children how to be more environmentally responsible, and they also help co-build together with the communities so as to take better care of the infrastructures that are set up. I remember a trip I took to Uganda. There was an extraordinary experiment. What was it about? Well, we had observed that communities that actually had their crops invaded by monkeys. And once there's someone who came and said, what's the solution? Well, the solution is to leave food for the monkeys in the forest so that they don't come and try to steal your food. So this is an example of communities being empowered to take care of their own infrastructures. There are so many initiatives I could have mentioned, but I've tried to give you a representative sample. There is the daily durable project. You see on the left-hand side, it's about educating children on green alternatives, so waste collection, waste sorting. They're being taught how important it is to protect school infrastructures, how important it is not to waste water, because some have no access to drinking water. There's another beautiful project, which is the Green Great Wall in Sahel. This is not about building a wall from Senegal to Niger, but it is about educating in schools, because they think that if we teach children from a very early age to protect their environment and to make for a greener, more responsible stewardship of their own environment, that is the way to build the future. There's also a great project in Senegal called Toston. It's about empowering villages by enabling them to make decisions on water, on trees, on also sanitation. There's also a broader project. It's a worldwide project that is has been developed by UNICEF, which is in support of communities in Africa, Central Africa and Western Africa, so that they may have greener behaviors, and so has to have more impact on communities. Why is it so important and urgent to have greener schools? It is an emergency. It has to be said clearly. And it is not the preserve of Africa, by the way, but it really calls upon us to change our behaviors. Some say that it's already a lost battle for our generation. So we have to educate and empower the next generations. We have to put in a lot of effort, energy, and support so that we can create greener, more responsible schools, make that green transition more fair and resilient. So it's true that climate change is disruptive for schools, for the school curriculum, for a school year, and fighting that is a way to make for more equality. In Africa, 242 million schools have been actually faced with climate-linked deregulation and disruption. So it is urgent to act now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jero. You highlighted urgency and equity very clearly. So let us now look at what research tells us about what actually enables change. And I would like to invite Dr. Gabriele B. Edwards, researcher at University of Göteborg, to share her insights.
Great. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. And thank you for my fellow panelists for their great presentations so far. I'm Gabrielle Edwards. I'm a researcher at the University of Gothenburg in Sweden, and I'm going to be sharing research insights for strategies for success for implementing whole school approaches. Trying to translate that research into kind of practical ways that schools or NGOs or people working on the ground can use this information. Not to bring it up again, but we're talking about a whole school approach, and I just wanted to quickly revisit the 4 components because they're kind of central to my presentation, and really highlight how I really like this visualization of the whole school approach because it highlights how the 4 different components are very interconnected and that you can't just focus on one component within a school. You need to focus on them all. If one part of the diagram is working correctly, but the others are maybe not working towards that goal of greening a school, then it can actually totally stall the progress of what you're trying to do. And your initiative won't be successful. So this really highlights how a whole school approach is trying to create a web of consistent experiences for students and really align what's taught in the formal curriculum with what is communicated with the wider school and community. So I'm going to go through quickly these 4 elements with some practical strategies for what can help a whole school approach succeed in practice. So starting with school governance, really the key point here is that a school needs strong administrative support in order to initiate a whole school approach. As Pramod mentioned, there are many greening initiatives, and often these are thought of as whole school approaches, but it's often one school or green champion initiating something within a school. And these are amazing people, often teachers who have a real passion for what they're doing. But once that teacher either burns out because they're doing a lot of work or leaves the school, it leads to the initiative ending. So it's not a very sustainable approach. Therefore, ensuring that you have strong administrative support at the beginning of trying to implement a whole school approach is really needed, and having a team of people working on this goal. One thing that can help this is really thinking about the values of your organization. So ensuring that sustainability is embedded within those school policy documents, and it's consistently communicated through, for example, communication that's sent home to families, or documents that are communicated within the school to students. And as was previously mentioned, it's really important to have students as part of the governance structure of a school, and making sure that it's meaningful inclusion, where their perspectives are prioritized and taken seriously. Moving on to the facilities and operations aspect of the whole school approach. Something that's very important to consider here is the hidden curriculum of the school. And all that means, the hidden curriculum is the unpublicized features of school life. So this is messages that are not formally taught to students, but are communicated to them either intentionally or unintentionally through the way a school operates. So for example, if the formal curriculum is concerned with climate change, is that reflected in the way energy is used in the school? Or if students are learning about active citizenship, are they encouraged to become involved in decision-making within the school? If students are being taught that sustainable actions are important, but then adults in the school and in their life are not implementing those actions, they actually may come to understand that saying you care for the environment, but then not doing anything about it is normal adult behavior. And that's not something we want. And whole school approaches can help kind of break this cycle and have consistent learning for students in all areas of their life. When Pramod mentioned, like, school infrastructure is an important part of this component. And I just want to highlight how this can sometimes feel overwhelming because, you know, maybe you're in a really old school building, and when you think of a whole school approach, maybe you're envisioning this amazing eco school in the rainforest. And that seems impossible. So it can be one of the harder aspects to start with if you're trying to implement a whole school approach, as sometimes regulations or like municipal policies can make it difficult to actually change the infrastructure. For example, one school I worked with was trying to build an in-ground garden, but their maintenance team said they weren't allowed to do that because it would be too hard to mow the lawn around it. So they ended up having to have like a concrete block with a garden bed, which wasn't what they wanted, but they kind of had to work around these regulations that existed. And I also wanted to point out that sometimes there are these flashy kind of green tools or infrastructure that comes up. It's normally really high tech, and it seems like a great thing to implement in a school setting. Although it can be a good tool, it's important to consider your context and whether this will actually meet your school's goals, because sometimes these high-tech tools can be very expensive, actually require more time to run them than it might seem at the onset, and can require kind of high levels of expertise to continue maintaining this high-tech tool. Sometimes when schools try to implement this, it's used very minimally and then kind of put in the basement. So just make sure if you're investing in some type of tool or infrastructure for your school that it's something that's going to be sustainable and benefit many students within the school. Then thinking about teaching and learning, first, just a couple pedagogical strategies, and I think Raymond also mentioned them, but experiential place-based learning is a very effective strategy for engaging students in education for sustainable development, and specifically having student-led learning where they're engaged in locally situated actions. So identifying local problems and then taking action on those. Sometimes when climate change is communicated, it's talked about as this thing that's far away, using images like polar bears and melting ice caps. But using that type of imagery actually makes climate change feel very far away in terms of time and space. And it's difficult for students to see their own role in addressing these issues. And it can lead to increased levels of climate anxiety. So by taking action at the local level, it can lead to students being able to see positive, practical changes that they can make. It's important, as is mentioned, to integrate learning cross-curricularly, but I also wanted to mention that, talking about climate change and environmental education is a very emotional topic, both for educators and students. And research shows that it's very important to acknowledge these emotions that come up and leave space for them for your students to be able to experience them. And allowing the space can lead to more positive outlook for the future for students and them being more willing to engage in sustainability actions in the future. And also the way that climate change or environmental issues are communicated is important. So using hopeful, positive language is more effective than only negative approaches. And then finally, community and familial engagement. So as was mentioned, families are great resource to help schools engage in whole school approaches and a needed component of the approach. Not only can they reinforce learning that students have at schools, or students can take that learning home, as was mentioned, but they can also act as advocates for the school at places like a school board level to help gain support for the school there. And strong community partnerships, again, this was already mentioned, but are really important for helping schools embed initiatives as long-term programs within the school rather than one-off initiatives. However, building these partnerships can be really difficult, especially because, as I previously mentioned, often there's one or two key people within a school who are kind of driving the whole school approach, and they don't have time to be networking and building relationships and creating these sites of support. So this is why, again, it's really important to start with making sure that you've got the administrative support and the leadership on board so that these types of partnerships can develop. And often community members are very excited to be involved in initiatives. There's lots of examples of when they find out about something, wanting to get involved. So be vocal about what's happening because people will be excited about it if you are. And I just wanted to end by saying that whole school approaches seem like this overwhelming concept, but there's really no right or perfect way to implement it. It's very context specific, and you do the best that you can within your situation. And a group of passionate individuals can lead to larger change. Smaller classroom student-led initiatives can lead to wide school change. And just a note that you kind of need to be committed to a long-term approach. It takes time. This image represents a school who a wetland had concrete put over it, and they realized there was a wetland there, and then were able to totally restore it. However, it took many years, and the students who started with that initiative were not there when it was done. So you kind of need to be committed to this long-term approach if you're engaging with whole school approaches. And I could talk about this for hours, but I think I'm already over time. So happy to connect with you if you'd like to talk more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gabriella, for translating evidence into insight. So let us now hear how this plays out in a real school context. I would like to invite Liisa Puusepp, principal of Rakvere State Upper Secondary School from Estonia, to share a case study from school practice. The floor is yours, Liisa. Please unmute yourself.
Let's try again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you. Thank you.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon from Estonia. It's my great pleasure to be here. And yes, my name is Liisa Puusepp and I'm a principal of Rakvere State Upper Secondary School. And it's my, yeah, as my school is like my kid, so I can speak about my school hours and hours. But today I will focus on our school practice with from where we are aiming to contribute to the sustainable development. And I'm so happy that I can already see clear connections with previous presentations, especially with Gabriela's presentation. Thank you, Gabriela. So I try to change my slides now. Okay, good. So our mission is to support nationally established educational goals and also UN Sustainable Development Goals, and to contribute to the development of sustainable society. And
I'm sorry, Liisa. I need to interrupt you. Please put your presentation on the presentation mode. We see the first slide still.
Okay, I try to. I have, yeah, I haven't used Zoom. So, now you can see?
No.
No, still no.
Maybe close it and share it again.
I haven't used Zoom. Now?
Yes, we see the mission slide, but not the presentation. Yeah, now it's okay, but on the next we see your next slide.
Now you can see my mission
yes.
slide. Okay, I try to.
I'm sorry. Now we lost the picture.
So, but I can, as this is technical issue, I can speak. Is it okay?
I will share your slides.
Hmm?
I will share your slides.
Good, that's good. Thank you.
Do you see the slides now?
Yes, I can.
Please tell me which one you see. Please go further.
Yeah, mission. Oh, this one is okay. Mission slide is okay. Okay. So yeah, I will repeat very shortly so that our mission is to support nationally established educational goals and also UN Sustainable Development Goals, and to contribute to the development of a sustainable society. And next slide. Yes, we are brand new school. So this is our 4th year. So you can see that we have brand new building as well. We have more than 400 students and 40 staff members, teachers and supportive staff members. And the age of students is 16 to 20 years. So for us, school is not only a place where students can acquire knowledge. It is an environment where young people learn to understand themselves, their strengths, their weakness as well, their values, and their responsibilities towards society. And additionally, I would like to say that our school is a member of UNESCO school network as well. Next slide, please. So our work is guided by three core values: meaningfulness, commitment, and diversity. Meaningfulness means that learning must make sense to the learners, but not only for learners, of course, for teachers as well. So we do not teach only for exams, as we can see in Estonia and in the world, that exams are most important things, but this is not for us. We teach so that knowledge connects to the real life. Commitment means taking responsibility. Diversity means that we value different learners, different perspectives, and different learning paths. And pedagogically, we are guided by the principles of education for sustainable development and constructivist approach to learning. This means that students are not passive partners, but active constructors of knowledge. And learning takes place through discussions and reflections. And interdisciplinary and project-based learning play a central role in our school. Subjects do not function in isolation. Instead of teachers collaborate across disciplines, allowing students to see how, for example, history, science, social studies intersect in real-world issues, and this helps students to develop more holistic understanding of the world. Next slide, please.
I was adding.
Good. So we often describe our learning approach through the metaphor of head, hand, and heart. So learning with the heart refers to knowledge construction. So it represents academic dimension. Learning with the hand means gaining knowledge through practical activity, and learning through doing. And learning with heart focuses on emotions, ethics, and values, and general competencies. So we believe that social, emotional experiences and physical engagement give learning meaning. And education is not only intellectual, it is also emotional and ethical. So already you have slides about our curriculum. So you can see that, yes, we need to follow Estonian national curriculum. There are subjects as geography, chemistry, Estonian language, and so on. But in addition, we have developed school-based courses that reflect our specific educational vision and mission. So these courses are our face. For example, courses about local community, about our roots, so that it helps students to understand where they are come from and how they are connected to the community. From this list, I would stress a course called Global Education, which is very important. And today it is very important to the course Cybersecurity, because we live in this cyber world and we need to give these courses to students as well. So next slide, please. Each year, students choose 3 elective modules, so different courses, and these courses are designed together community, so we know what kind of courses and what kind of subjects community needs. So together with community, 3 and 4 years ago, we designed these subjects. And this flexibility that students can choose different courses, extra courses, it allows students to shape their individual learning pathways and explore their interest more deeply. And here you can see pictures about different project-based learning results. And just to summary, in our school, learning is meaningful and connected to real life. Students are creative, active creators of knowledge. From these pictures, you can see more students and teachers. Our students, they design their pathway, they design and create projects and organize events and putting together different knowledge to understand the system of the world. And academic excellence is balanced in our school. Academic excellence is balanced with social and emotional development and sustainability, and community engagement are intentionally integrated in the educational process. Very quickly, as I said, I would like to speak about my school hours and hours, but very shortly it's the end. If you have any questions, I'm very happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Liisa, for bringing the whole school approach to the life through practice. We have now heard 4 complementary perspectives: the global framework, research-based insights, and concrete school example and implementation voice from the field. And I would now like to open a short moderated discussion to explore how we move from strong examples to scalable and measurable impact. But we have only 5 minutes. So, dear panelists, I hope you have managed to answer to the questions via QA, but I have one question for you, that we have had inspiring examples, but how do we ensure that these practices do not remain isolated cases? Pramod, maybe you can start.
Thank you. I think when we are looking at the 50% target in terms of greening education partnership, we are trying to move away from those isolated examples or island of excellence approach that I would call one school in that kind of thing. And we have seen there in many countries, and the critical component there has been the partnership where the government takes up this as an approach as part of their policy, engage with organizations that are supporting schools like fee members in different countries, as EcoSchool is one example, but there are many more examples of like that, and making sure that schools are able to have the space and time required to implement. It's a time consuming and intensive effort in the beginning before it looks very easy. So in our own experience, it takes almost 2 years to even just start putting a system together. After that, you start seeing the results. So it's a long-term thinking and investment that is required here. And all the partners and stakeholders need to come in and support with their expertise.
Thank you, Pramod. And the last question, what I will ask from all of you, what is one concrete action that can realistically be implemented within the next 6 months? What do you think? Gabriele, maybe you could start.
Sure. So I guess my answer connects to one of the other pillars around curriculum. But I think that one concrete action is recognizing places within the curriculum that sustainability or education for sustainable development already shows up. For example, in home economics education, which is often not a mandatory subject in schools, that's often where there are opportunities where sustainability education already exists, yet home economics is viewed often as a fun cooking subject or something that's not important. So I think uplifting these topics that are maybe not seen as the traditional topics, that this is where this education occurs, is an important first step in utilizing resources that already exist, like the teachers who are already working on this objective.
Thank you. Jero, do you have something to add? . What is one concrete action that can realistically be implemented within the next 6 months?
Can I respond to it?
Yes, Pramod.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it, and one aspect that I also highlighted, this 50% target is very overwhelming. It's and what we can do is that break it into targets which are achievable. Like for example, we can go for a city. So 50% schools are green in a city or in a municipality or in a state before we think of a country. And if we can do that, and each one of us in our power of influence can help in that journey and have developed that vision in that region, I think that will take this greening education partnership towards the target faster than anything else would have done it.
Thank you, Pramod. And as the time is going to be end so quickly, there were a little bit longer discussions, then thank you for this great discussion. And it is highlighted these 3 essential messages. From the whole school and eco schools perspective, we heard that sustainability must move beyond isolated projects towards systemic integration across governance, curriculum, operations, and community engagement. From research, we learned that successful whole school approaches require alignment, committed leadership, team approach, and consistency between what is taught and what is practiced. And from Rakvere's example, we saw how sustainability becomes meaningful when it connects head, hands, and heart, and when students take ownership through interdisciplinary and community-based learning. So if there is one immediate action schools or NGOs can take, it is this: build a cross-functional green team and map where sustainability already lives in your institution and where it can be strengthened. The Greening Education Partnership gives us a shared framework to move from isolated initiatives to collective impact. I invite all of us to continue this collaboration across schools, NGOs, researchers, and policymakers, so that greening education becomes everyday practice, not an exception. Thank you to our speakers and to UNESCO full team for enabling this dialogue. Have a nice afternoon.
Cyril?
My mic was off.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Merci Siri et merci à l'ensemble des intervenants pour cette première session.
Thank you, Siri,
Et
and
merci
thank
à
you
l'ensemble
to
des
all the
participants qui ont joué le jeu et
panelists.
posé des questions
Thank you to all the
dans la
participants.
Q&A.
They
Nous allons
asked
tenter
many
d'y
questions
répondre
in the
et surtout, n'hésitez pas
Q&A
à nous poser des
box.
questions.
Please do not hesitate to ask
Notre deuxième
further
session va
questions
traiter des
in
communautés
between both
vertes.
sessions.
Ce
Our
pilier
second
entend
session is
l'éducation et
going to
l'action climatique
discuss
au-delà des écoles
greener
formelles, vers les familles,
communities.
groupes de jeunes,
So
centres
talking about
communautaires et
communities is
villes
talking
apprenantes.
beyond
Par
schools.
un apprentissage
It's
tout au long de la vie,
places
il vise à
where
renforcer la résilience
youth and young
communautaire et à
people
mobiliser les acteurs locaux
learn,
pour des
and
solutions concrètes
this is
face aux défis
also
climatiques.
tapping into a community
Pour
to
animer
try
ce
and find
panel, nous
concrete
accueillons de nouveau
solutions
ma
to
collègue du comité de liaison
environmental
Nisrine,
challenges.
qui est la directrice
We
générale de la
are
Fondation
going
marocaine
to
pour l'enfance
listen
préscolaire,
to
gérant ainsi un réseau
representatives
national de
of
plus de
the
25 000 clubs.
Moroccan
Avec plus de 15 ans
association. She
d'expérience en
manages
gestion
a network of
éducative
more
et
than
leadership
25,000
institutionnel,
schools.
supervise ce
She
réseau
has
et
many
maintient un
years
partenariat
of
officiel avec
experience
l'UNESCO,
in
tout
this
en
network.
contribuant
She
à des
has an
initiatives
official partnership
internationales
with
en éducation
UNESCO,
précoce.
also
Elle est également
manages a number
membre
of
et secrétaire
international
exécutif du comité de
cooperation
liaison ONG-UNESCO. Nisrine, je te laisse la
cooperation.
parole.
Nisrine, you have the floor.
Merci Cyril.
Thank you
Rebonjour
very
à
much,
toutes et à
Cyril.
tous. Et ravie
Good
de vous
afternoon,
retrouver pour la
everybody. I'm
modération
delighted to have
de
you
cette session
again and to
réservée
be the
au pilier
moderator
4 du
to
partenariat
this
pour
session
l'éducation
dedicated to
verte,
pillar number
consacré au
4,
thème des communautés
greener
vertes.
education thanks to
Alors, le
greener
pilier
communities.
est là, comme
This
revient à
greening
ce qu'a
communities
dit
pillar,
Madame
as
Stefania Giannini dans son
Stefania
discours,
Giannini
mot
said
d'ouverture,
in
comme
her
c'était dit,
introduction,
sont tous
is
de toute façon
very important,
interconnectés.
and
Et
all
on va voir
pillars are
effectivement
in a
que
way
ce pilier de
interconnected. presented, it was said, and we're going to see, and I shall pick up on a question that was asked in the Q&A section, but so what I'm going to talk about is that this pillar is very much connected to the previous one. So pillar number 4, greening community, is really strengthening the role of communities as players in educational and environmental transition with a collective action. It promotes partnerships between schools, thanks to the commitment of students, but also teachers, and we heard about this in the first panel. Also, there are many actions from community centers, the different economic players, in order to support knowledge-based and action-based learnings in order to foster more resilient, fair and sustainable societies, for us to better understand the challenges and targets of those pillars and also discover a number of concrete projects. We are delighted to have 2 experts and 2 ONG representatives. Let me thank them warmly for their participation first. We're going to listen to Oishin Gill from the Office of Youth and Women, so FAO. So she's going to be the first speaker, and then we're going to have Cynthia Marquez Pugach, and again, I apologize for butchering her name, certainly. She's a Director Education Innovation at the World Scout Bureau. Together, they are the coordinator of the working group of this 4th pillar entitled Greening Communities. So we will understand the role of this pillar, the target, expected results, and main programs that have already started. We shall then listen to 2 ONG representatives working at grassroots levels. They will share concrete projects. First, we'll have a representative of CCIVS, the Coordinating Committee for International Voluntary Service. And we'll also have a representative from the Rotaract Club Bari. Erika Gieti is very much committed in mobilization and the implementation of local sustainability and solidarity initiatives. Without further ado, I'm going to give the floor to Oishin and Cynthia. They will be co-moderator. And if you don't mind, I would like to share one question, as I said before. One question that we have in the Q&A box, which I thought was interesting. So this is a question that I'm going to ask to all of you. Maybe you're going to ensure that at least 50% of schools are green. We need crucial partnerships.
We can best ensure this. Would it be advisable to develop a formal partnership guideline to help identify and engage appropriate institutions in a structured and strategic manner? Merci. Et à vous la parole.
So thank you for that question. You have the floor. I kindly remind you that you have a 15-minute slot for each of your presentations. Thank you very much, Nisreen. Thank you, Siri. Good afternoon, everybody.
And I'm leading the youth education program in FAO's Office of Youth and Women. And I'm also one of the co-coordinators of the Greening Education Partnership, Pillar 4, Greening Communities. I'm also joined today by Cynthia Marquez Pugel, and one of our other colleagues, the other coordinators, are the United Nations University Institute for Advanced Studies and Sustainability, who wouldn't be able to make it today, but no, they're deeply involved and supporting this Greening Communities pillar. I'm just going to share my screen with you now, so hopefully you are all able to see that. Great. Merci, Nisreen. So as I mentioned, my name is Oishin. I'm leading the education program and Greening Communities, and one of the coordinators for that pillar, alongside the World Organization of Scouts Movement, and Cynthia Marquez Pugel is joining us as well here today. And as I mentioned, United Nations University Institute for Advanced Studies and Sustainability are the co-coordinators for this pillar. So the things we're going to share a little bit about today is, the pillar, our co-coordinators, who we are, and then I want to go into the Greening Communities Guidance document, what we have, what was published towards the end of last year in 2025, and will be a focus for a lot of our community's work this year in 2026. So we hope to engage as many of you within that. And then afterwards, I'll go through some of the plans that we have for 2026 within the Greening Communities pillar, how you can all get involved in that. So as I mentioned, the co-coordinators ourselves in FAO, this is the Office of Youth and Women at work in the project of the World Food Forum Global Youth Action Initiative. Our work aims to engage young people in agri-food systems. So we work with countries around the world, FAO member states, and young people to work on supporting them. And we also have United Nations University, Miki Kanishi, Nafisa Asimbayeva, as well as Cynthia Marquez, as I mentioned. So that is the team, supported strongly through UNESCO Secretariat and Education for Sustainable Development and everything that they do for the Greening Education Partnership. So thank you very much. But yeah, one thing I want to really sort of focus this discussion a little bit around is this guidance document, to share a little bit more information on what that looks like, and how it's structured, how you can use it, and what we hope to do for 2026. The Greening Community Guidance document was prepared with members, working group members of Greening Communities pillar, and was facilitated by UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning and World Organization for the Scouts movement. So yeah, a big thank you to Cynthia and the work that she did there, also acknowledging the work of Edith Hammer and colleagues in the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning. But starting off and looking at sort of what a greening community is, and before we go into looking at that, just in terms of some of the overall approach and goals for the greening communities. So hoping to strengthen community resilience by integrating climate action into lifelong learning, and that is something that you'll see once you engage with the document as well, and I'll go through the different sections that are laid out there, and looking at a focus on mobilizing young people and individuals, community centres and learning cities to take action for climate change. Towards this year, we're looking at a target. So you saw the target that was presented by Pramod and working group 1, greening schools. We're looking at this year to define what that target will be for greening communities. Our approach to greening communities is looking at municipalities, local governments, and how they can get involved as some of the key stakeholders, as well as other stakeholders. And do we have a target around that? So we do encourage all of you to engage with the work that we have in the partnership this year, to define that as well. And then speaking from my own background as well, I worked with an NGO in Ireland, and Education for Sustainable Development, non-formal education, and to really achieve all of what we're hoping to achieve within the Greening Education Partnership, it is vital that more NGOs get involved, are engaged, and are driving this work as well. So we hope to encourage as many of you as possible to get involved with greening communities. So greening community, what does it look like? What is it? Greening community is something where people live in harmony with nature, where youth lead equally in key decisions. Local governments enable climate participation. Global actions restore environmental balance. Climate justice ensures fairness for all. Sustainable living becomes the new norm. And communities are thriving through sustainable livelihoods. Everyone learns. Lifelong climate action, that lifelong learning element is key to all of this. Daily life aligns with natural balance, and cities feel alive with clean air. So this is the vision of what a green community looks like. But we encourage all of you to share with us how you envision that. Is there something that's missing here as well? And perhaps that will feed into defining some of the targets and the target that we have this year. So without going into too much detail, I want to share some of the structure, the overview of the guidance, and I'll share a link as well, and how you can download that guidance. But this is what it is structured around. It's a flexible guide that can be adapted to diverse contexts in localities around the globe. It offers clear principles and offers concrete action points to support diverse stakeholders in greening communities. So there are 4 thematic areas that we have for the guidance, as well as this the annex that provides an extensive annex that provides the action planning for greening communities, so templates, and if you're interested in getting involved in these initiatives, how you can do that. So going through some of these as well, looking at the different sections, starting with the first one, as you can see on the screen, it's dedicated to the question of who. It's the who's involved in these learning opportunities, who's involved in greening communities and learning there. So who are these stakeholders for learning and action, and the change agents that are involved? Looking at, as I mentioned, the local governments, looking at young people, looking at women, young women, especially some of the work that we do in FAO, in the Office of Youth and Women. Here it's important. As well as many other stakeholders. And then looking at all of the contributions of these stakeholders to greening, learning and action. This section will provide you an overview of how local governments and stakeholders can support that learning. And as in this section and across all of the other sections that I'll share a little bit more information on, there are practice-based examples of what that looks like. I'm looking forward to hearing our colleagues as well after this presentation to share their examples. So then moving to section 2, looking at where does learning take place in local communities. So this section looks at learning places, learning modalities, and an overview of the places that can be used to green communities through lifelong learning. What does that look like? Where are they? And again, looking at the concrete examples of what that looks like in practice. Then moving on to section 3, what is learnt and how it is instructed. So what to learn and how do we learn it? How do we share it? So some of the key areas at this section, you're looking at how to facilitate green learning in communities. What are the instructional approaches, the different relevant pedagogies that foster community-based action. We're looking at what to instruct in greening communities and the examples of those as well. So yeah, there's really lots of examples around the different pedagogies that are used within greening communities or could possibly be used and transferred to greening communities. Then moving on to section 4, and it's looking at the strategies for communities, and it's about how to develop that strategy, proposing a participatory, iterative 6-step process, and also offering practical templates to use. It provides an overview of that systematic process for developing a green learning strategy. It provides considerations for communities at different points in the green process, from no strategy currently to those that have lots of experience. And as I mentioned in all of the other sections, there'll be practice-based examples. And then lastly, there's a quite extensive annex in the documents, and this annex provides an action planning for greening communities and assessment tool to help putting these ideas and concepts into practice. So it is an overview generally of the structure of the guidance document. So we want to hear from you and see as many people working on and implementing that, and that is also one of our goals as well for 2026, and how we can best support the implementation and the use and the uptake of that guidance document. So through the QR code on screen, you'll be able to download that. And yeah, once again, a massive thank you to colleagues in UNESCO's Institute for Lifelong Learning and World Organization of the Scouts Movement to support that. I will, before moving on, I just want to see if Cynthia, if you want to add anything specifically on the guidance document in this section here.
Well, no, thank you, Oisin, and thank you all who are joining us today. Basically to say a thank you and acknowledge the work of so many organizations that contributed with more than 1 year, almost 2 years of designing, exchanging their experience. And while, as Oisin mentioned, the primary target audience are municipalities, this guidance can only take life if each of our organizations grounds it and are the champions and advocates to bring these resources to other organizations, to make alliances, to join efforts, and to communicate with your local governments on how you can work, collaborate, and disseminate this information. And also joining efforts with other pillars and schools and educators in this greening community that we are trying to build.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Cynthia. And then, yeah, so then moving on to some of the work that we're doing in 2026. These are some of the key areas that we're looking at, and we invite all of you to join us in this. So as I mentioned, and as Katarina mentioned at the beginning, looking at defining the greening community's target to 2030 or beyond. So what does that look like? What do we want to achieve, and how do we measure and track our progress towards that in this year? So quite an important step to that. And then, as I just mentioned, disseminating this guidance document, getting as many people on board that are supporting the implementation, and we're able to see that actually being put to use and put in place. And to join this, like joining all of the working group meetings of the Greening Education Partnership, though there are opportunities to engage with those as well as other members of the working group, including those that have contributed to the development of this guidance document. It really was a collaborative approach with working group members to be able to develop this document, and thanks to everybody that has been involved in that process. And then, yeah, looking at the communication monitoring of the progress of that document. And then finally, what are we looking for? We're looking at investing in community learning hubs for climate resilience and how we can support this, and how all of us can get involved in this effort to green communities, integrating lifelong learning for climate action into national policies, establishing local climate assemblies with youth and Indigenous leadership, want to ensure just inclusive transition for all communities, and develop global monitoring frameworks for greening communities by 2030. So that's an idea of what we're looking at, and how and where we would like some support, and where you could all get involved in this process. Yeah, Cynthia, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
Well, basically, a call of action, because now all of our organizations can move on with the actions that Oisin is mentioning. We keep having the quarterly meetings of the groups. We would like to have more members, more organizations that take part on our Pillar 4, and we invite others to join as well. We are aiming to identify what is the best way for each of your organizations to contribute in setting targets, in grounding this, in atomizing the effort. As Pramod was mentioning, some of the targets might become overwhelming if we think of trying to achieve it as a whole, but if we divide and conquer, then everything becomes more, we can materialize it together. Something else that has been mentioned is how to make sure that youth are at the center of decision making and participating, and also all other vulnerable groups and Indigenous communities and other minorities represented in our communities that are also affected by all the climate crisis. Most importantly, I think it's very important to recognize that this pillar is the one that integrates efforts of a diversity of sectors. And this is the opportunity that we have to make a cohesive effort and try to bring together the power, influence, and advance of all possible allies to create these spaces where Oisin has mentioning the vision that we have, and make this vision something concrete that is not only an ideal laid out in our guidance.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you all for your time. Merci beaucoup, Nesrine. Je vous laisse la parole.
And thank you, Nesrine,
And
and
so,
over to you. Thank you, Asheen. Thank you for reminding us of this global framework for the fourth pillar. And thank you for clarifying what we mean by greening communities. And thank you for presenting this guide. This guide seems very detailed and very interesting. Thank you, Cynthia, for reminding us of all the work that has been put into devising that guide and breathing life into it. And I hope today's webinar will actually give you even more momentum and convince a lot of organizations to join you. I'm now going to give the floor to Risha Gamir, Vice President for Asia Pacific. Thank you, Risha. Over to you.
Risha?
Risha, can you hear us?
Yes, hello, sorry, I was on mute. I'm trying to open my PPT. Just a moment.
Bien sûr, il n'y a pas de souci.
Of course, no worries.
Hello, everyone. My name is Richa, and I represent CCIVS, the Global Network of International Voluntary Service Organization. IVS is rooted in peace building through reciprocal cooperation and non-formal education. And today, we share how volunteering ecosystem can strengthen the greening communities pillar by supporting community-led learning, solidarity, and climate justice action. So why greening communities? Greening community is in practice education beyond school through youth group, community spaces, volunteer team, neighborhood initiatives, and local ecosystem. International voluntary service helps scale it by enabling reciprocity and solidarity. People act with communities, not for them, but across cultures, generation, and territories. That creates local ownership, strengthens collective resilience, and supports lifelong learning through action plus reflection across formal, informal, and non-formal spaces. So these are some of the snapshots from the community, volunteers in local action in Kenya. CCIVS approach. What CCIVS contributes is a practical approach used across IVS movement, a community-led learning loop. It starts with an hands-on volunteering, reforestation, greening, cleanups, sustainable practices, designed and hosted with local actors. It then can strengthen intercultural learning and solidarity through shared living / working in temporary learning communities. And it adds facilitated reflection on climate justice, inclusion, and policy literacy. So learning connects to lived realities and civic participation. Importantly, we document outcomes in a responsible and non-extractive way. We avoid savior narratives, we contextualize stories, and we make host communities and partners visible as agents, not backdrops. So alongside with participation figures, we collect participant voices and most significant change stories to understand what community themselves define as meaningful change. So these are other snapshots from local actions in Naples. So our aim is Voices for Changes empowers the International Voluntary Service IVS movement through music, storytelling, and advocacy. It connects grassroots activism with institutional advocacy, ensuring that local realities inform global decision-making through a decolonial approach to social and climate justice. Sorry. Sorry. We would like to spotlight Voices for Change, co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program of European Union. During 2025, local actions were implemented by 10 partner organizations across 9 countries: Czech Republic, Ecuador, Estonia, India, Italy, Kenya, Palestine, South Africa, and Turkey. Between July and September 2025, partners delivered work camps, workshops, and reforestation and greening action cleanups, education sessions, and art-based dialogues. Across the partnership, we documented at least 1,030 participant engagement, and we use engagement transparently because delivery formats and counting approaches differed, and we did not deduplicate individual across multiple activities. What makes the project distinctive is that the culture is not extra. It is part of learning design. The partnership followed a clear sequence. First, listen. Partners collected stories and feedback from communities and CCIVS members, including most significant narratives. Second is synthesize. Justice, recurring themes were being identified: care for ecosystem, justice, and belonging, resilience. Third is co-creating with support from the International Music Council and project artist partners. These became the shared and also a film for Echoes of Nature. The fourth is a return to communities. The song was used during local action to open workshop, stimulate dialogue, and invite local adaptation, languages, choreography, accessibility formats, including sign, manual, alphabet. This was created. This created a feedback loop that the song generated new discussion and stories and strengthened the community ownership of the project messages. So these are some of other snapshots that we have from the project. So what has changed in the ways that matter for greening communities? First, we repeatedly saw a shift from activity to ownership. Co-creation produced durable improvements and stewardship. Second, partners made complex issues learnable and actionable: climate justice, green colonialism, environmental racism, policy literacy, by combining participatory tools with creative practice. Third action strengthened local alliances: school, local authorities, forestry services, refugee and community centers, civil society group, and local media. Exactly the ecosystem that greening communities depends on. We do not only have measurable results, but with numbers, but also we have the most significant change method. We collect short stories from the participants about the most meaningful changes that they have experienced and why. This captures values, relationship, dignity, and agency, things that numbers can never show. In Italy, one story shows greening through belonging and recognition. A refugee volunteer from Ghana describes watering basil in a community garden. When I water a basil, the smell comes. I remember home. I like this garden. I help with the water. It links urban greening with dignity, memory, and contribution to peripheral neighborhoods. In India, Mr. Babu Mongavera, a 80-year-old fisherman from Karnataka coast, describes how once survival pushed him to collect sea turtle eggs. When the sea gives little, a man must find means. Over time, through collaboration with FSL and the Forest Department, he was offered different roles: patrolling nesting sites, guiding others, and becoming teacher for children. The lesson is that conservation works best when it grows within the community, through trust, opportunity, and shared responsibility. This is another of the snapshot from our community. To close, a practical invitation: use Echoes of Nature as community learning prompt, play to open dialogue, then invite people to share short reflection. What is the biggest challenge here, and what change matters the most? This is how we connect culture to learning and community evidence. The link and the QR are on the side right here. We would like to share a very short teaser now, and we invite you to look on the CCIVS YouTube channel and the Voices for Changes Hub to watch the full video and share with community and your people.
Deep down, we have the same heartbeat. Sing for the earth, it's not our lives. Still we your people, children our lives. Stand for your stand, our lives. Make it
Merci beaucoup, Rika. Merci d'avoir partagé avec nous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you
listening.
so much.
Et vraiment, je retiens de votre intervention vraiment des mots-clés.
Takeaways are a few inspiring keywords: solidarity, youth, community, responsibility, empowerment, and lifelong learning. Thank you so much for sharing all these very stimulating actions, and I hope they will inspire other NGOs. Our last speaker today is Erika Rietti. Erika?
Erika Rietti.
Rietti.
Du Rotaract Club de Bari.
Indeed, representative of Rotaract Club Bari. And she's going to tell us about initiatives, local initiatives that are supported by youth. So over to you, Erika. And since 2022, she's been a researcher and psychologist and leading clinical studies in providing care for cancer patients. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon from Italy. Can you hear me? Can you see the slides? Can you hear me?
Maybe essayez de faire avancer pour être sûr que la présentation avance. Pour le moment. Oui.
Yes, we can see them.
Yes. Okay. So it's a great honor for me to take part in the 18th International Forum on Greening Education Partnership. I consider this event a unique and meaningful opportunity for the exchange of ideas, which I strongly believe to be a powerful source of inspiration, dialogue, and personal growth. In this spirit, I sincerely hope that my contribution may prove valuable and helpful to the global community we reflect. So, here you are a brief CV of my Rotarian and Rotaract experience, and today I'm proud to represent the Rotaract Club Bari, my club, part of the Rotaract International, a global network of young adults aged from 18 to 35 who are dedicated to personal development, professional growth, and community service. Rotaract operates under the guidance of Rotary International and promotes leadership, ethical values, and international understanding through concrete and sustainable service projects. The Rotaract Club Bari is a dynamic and service-oriented organization based in southern Italy, deeply rooted in the local community while maintaining a strong international outlook. During my year as president in the Rotaract year 2022-2023, I actively promoted initiatives focused on green education and environmental awareness, fully embracing a model of leadership centered on responsibility, inclusion, and long-term impact. By doing so, we fully believe in the promotion of Rotary International's fundamental values, such as integrity, friendship, service, diversity, and leadership. This commitment found a concrete expression in the service project Seeds of Change, an initiative born from listening to the needs of our local community. In a metropolitan area such as Bari, the community expressed a growing demand for accessible urban spaces that could foster direct contact with nature and promote environmental well-being. Urban life often distances individuals from natural environments, making it essential to create spaces where sustainability, social interaction, and care for the environment can coexist. In response to this need, the Rotary Club Bari implemented a service project in support of the social garden Orto Domingo, with the aim of enhancing urban agriculture while promoting social interaction and inclusion. The project sought to reduce environmental impact, encourage sustainable daily habits, and strengthen civic engagement. At its core was the belief that shared green spaces can act as catalysts for collective responsibility and community resilience. The initiative was inspired by the proven benefits of garden therapy, which has been shown to improve mental well-being, stimulate active participation, and foster a sense of usefulness and belonging within the community. By involving citizens directly in the care of the garden, the project transformed the space into a place of connection, learning, and shared purpose. Thanks to the support of Rotary District 2120 Puglia Basilicata, funds were allocated to purchase eco-friendly agricultural supplies, including seeds, natural fertilizers, and soil enhancers. A significant part of the funding was also invested in the distribution of dedicated containers, as you can see in the photographs, for the collection of used coffee grounds and pods. Rich in essential nutrients, coffee grounds were reused as natural fertilizers, significantly reducing waste while promoting circular economic practices. The collected materials were treated and recycled on a monthly basis in a designed area of the garden, reinforcing an educational approach to responsible resource management. Here you are, a video that demonstrates our activity. As the time was right, we put in the work and we plant new seeds, so a new beginning ahead. So the end of something beautiful, because in June, the joint service came to an end with the inauguration of a tensile structure, which was donated by our club to the gardeners, of course, made of eco-sustainable materials. This service allowed us to care for the environment, to promote sustainability and waste avoidance. This was also a great chance to deepen the concept of circular economy through the support and valorization of the wonderful community of Orto Domingo. The Seeds of Change project also contributed to increasing environmental awareness among citizens, encouraging more conscious behaviors and sustainable choices. And its overall impact included the enhancement of urban green spaces, measurable waste reduction, and the strengthening of community cohesion. Most importantly, it demonstrated how small, well-structured actions can generate meaningful and lasting change when driven by shared values and collective engagement on which Rotaract relies. In conclusion, this experience reaffirmed my belief that community-focused leadership and environmental responsibility are inseparable and essential pillars for building more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable societies. Through collaboration, innovation, and deep respect for our environment, we can continue to empower communities and inspire future generations. So thank you again for this valuable opportunity to share our experience and to learn from one another.
Merci Erika. C'est peut-être la fin de quelque chose de beau.
Thank you, Erika. That's maybe the end of something beautiful, but that's also the beginning of something even nicer, thanks to the results that you shared. A community which is more resilient, but also everything you said about more responsible behaviors, more responsible vis-à-vis the environment. Thank you ever so much for sharing that Seeds of Change project, which was fantastic. I really liked the pictures. They were very moving. Thank you very much for showing concrete results. I think that's the objective of such a project. By sharing this project, you really showcased the values that you share, resilience, community, and respect as well. So thank you very much for this beautiful example. We have maybe 5 extra minutes to start a Q&A session. I have a question that maybe will make a connection between the different themes. So we talked on this 4th pillar. We listened to experts, but also NGO representatives with concrete actions. I'd like to hear if Cynthia agrees what they thought about the projects that were shown. What do you have to say on those projects, concrete examples, and how do you feel they participate to meeting the targets of pillar number 4? So, Oisin or Cynthia, what did you think of those projects? You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I can only say that the power of making this vision a reality, it lays out in people like Erika, their teams, and the schools, and everybody who is trying to make an effort into connecting their own mandates and learning how we can transform what we do, and then transforming it in a way that we start sharing this vision of a green community. I think any best practice, any example has a powerful influence in helping others to understand that there's no small effort that can start something big. So no one needs to feel shy about how can I start? This will be too small. The target is too big. The greatest achievements that we can do as a network, as a community, is if I start from where I am standing, being a small organization, being a one person who is starting an initiative or something that is imagining to be a movement. That's where you can start, and that's where we all need to start and stand from our ground. The mandate that we can adopt, each of us now, is how can we bring what is presented in the guidance into our own strategies. And one example, what WASM will start doing. We have different areas of work. We have education. We have how to develop capacities on our institutions, the national scout organizations in the countries, and we will try to bring these areas of work and structures into the teams so that they can understand, okay, how from the strategies that Greening Community Guidance is presenting, how our team, the educational team, can bring this to the ground. What is the capacities that we can develop in the grassroots level, in the intermediate level, in our structure? How do we transform this? The same in our strategies and the same in other systems and processes. That's the work that we need to start doing now, because similar to other pillars, this is not something that we need to rush to achieve. And we have a saying in Latin America, probably many countries, let's go slow because it's important. So let's go slow but steady in something that we really want to make it impactful the invitation is that the more we share our best practices among us, then our community becomes stronger, then we learn from each other, and the more we champion and advocate to include the ones who seem to be minority, the ones who seems to be more excluded, more affected, or the ones who, for diverse reasons, are not the ones who have a stronger voice or representation, that's where also, as a member of a community, what we need to do, to champion, to create the space for you to participate, for indigenous communities to participate, for women to lead on this decision-making that we try to do.
Well, thank you for those words, Cynthia. They were very wise words. Well, unfortunately, I would like to extend my warmest thanks to all the participants for those who shared their projects as well. I hope to see you tomorrow. And before we wrap, I'm going to hand it over to Cyril. Well, thank you very much, Nisreen. We're bringing this first day to a close. Thank you very much to each and every one of you for those rich discussions. They show, those discussions, the pivotal role that NGO play in the face of climate change. Now, we shall meet again tomorrow on the 12th of February. We will tackle pillar number 2 and 3 that has to do with the rest of the partnership. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you to the interpreters. Thank you, sir. Thanks to you, more participants can follow our conversation and you contribute to removing language barriers. And it's something that is very close to our heart. Again, thank you from the interpreters. Thank you very much. We shall meet again at 2 Paris time, same location, if you will. Thank you. Have a nice later afternoon. Goodbye.